With the recent colossal impact of heavy rock music throughout the United States, especially from British and European acts, we're now witnessing the emergence of some very interesting stateside bands. And one of the most exciting of those are Metallica. Now in 1983 they released their debut album Kill 'Em All, and they've just released the follow-up album called Ride the Lightning, and I've managed to catch up with Lars Ulrich. Lars, you're actually based in San Francisco, but your name is very European. Where do you come from?
Yeah, I'm originally from Denmark. I lived my first 17 or so years in Copenhagen, Denmark, and then in 1980 moved to Los Angeles and formed a band there. Then after about, I'd say, 2 years in Los Angeles, we got fed up with the atmosphere there and then moved up north to San Francisco and have been based there since.
Now tell me about the other members of the band. Are they American or?
Yes, there are. We have James Hetfield on rhythm guitar, who also does the lead vocals. He's originally from LA, and he was the one I formed the band with back in LA in about December 1981. Then there's Cliff Burton on bass, who is a native out of the Bay Area and very proud of it. And the same goes for Kirk Hammett on lead guitar, who's also a native out of the East Bay in San Francisco.
So let's go back a little while, of course, because obviously you have been as a band together for quite a while, haven't you, really?
Well, Metallica, yes, as a band, has been together since the fall of 1981, when I came back from a short visit in England and Europe. I was over here visiting some band friends of mine, came back to LA and wanted to form a band that had a sort of European sound that would stick out and be different from the bands that were playing in LA at the time, that all had a very American sort of like Van Halen, Kiss sound to them. I wanted to get a band together and form something with a sound that was very distinctive European, with a really heavy sound to it, and the roots planted in like British heavy metal, which I was very influenced by then.
Yeah, which bands did you like yourself?
Well, at the time I was very, very much into Motorhead, which you might be able to hear on some of the earlier stuff that we've done, especially on the first album. The band that I visited when I came to Europe in 1981 was some friends of mine in a band called Diamond Head up from Birmingham.
Great, Sean Tyson.
Yeah. And when I stayed with them for about 6 weeks over the summer there of '81, I really got a lot of insight into how they worked their band in terms of writing and arranging songs, and how they approached the whole situation of their band. That influenced me a lot too in like the beginning stages of Metallica. So I'd say the early influences of the band come from around 1981, with like the songwriting approach and the structures that Diamond Head did on like their early albums, like Lightning to the Nations, and what they did back then. You know, not really so much what they do nowadays, but what they did, you know, back then 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Drawback. So you made a 7-track demo, didn't you? No Life Till Leather.
Yes.
Where did the finance come from for that? Because a lot of British bands, you see, the biggest drawback is getting money to go into the studio and record something. I mean, have your parents got a bit?
No, it wasn't. No? Well, that's beside the point, but that wasn't why. We started gigging much around the Southern California areas through the spring of 1982. We did opening slots for bands like Saxon and the like that, and we got approached by a small independent sort of newly formed label in Southern California, which shall remain nameless, who wanted to work with Metallica and approached us to go in the studio and cut some songs for use either on an EP or a demo or whatever for later on. We went in the studio, cut the songs on the tape that now is known as the No Life Till Leather. We decided after being with these people for a short period of time that they weren't really the people that we wanted to work for us in the future. And after we cut the demo, we said no thank you to what deal they offered us, and worked out the financial situation where we would own the tapes since they had paid for them, which was money that we got from gigging. You know, we gigged pretty steadily all through the spring of 1982 in Southern California, playing the local clubs with bands that are now pretty big in the States too, such as Rat and Motley Crue and Steeler and,
Oh, yeah.
and bands like that. We did, a few opening slots for Saxon and YNC, and just build up a steady following in the Southern California area. But I mean, you asked where the money to do the tape from, the money came from, and they came from High Velocity Records or whatever
Great.
they were called.
So Kill 'Em All, of course, your debut album. I mean, how well has it sold?
It has sold extremely well. I mean, it is totally beyond what we had thought it would do. It is done, at the moment as we're speaking here, it is done about 58,000 in Europe and about 45 in the States, which adds up to somewhere right around 100,000, which is very, very well.
It's remarkable.
Yeah, which is very well for, especially, it's our first album, and it's on independent labels worldwide. So it's really done remarkable, but we're getting a very good push from like the very good people here at MFN here in London,
Sure.
who are really pushing and are really into the band, and also from our stateside label Megaforce, we're getting, they're really confident in what we're doing and really pushing us as much as possible, and I think that has really helped in the sales. Another thing that's remarkable is that the album is still selling. Well, now, maybe as we're speaking now in June, it is starting to slow down a little bit, but all the way up till around April, it was selling as well in April as it did when it was released in July. It has maintained a very steady curve since it was released.
Of course, you've had some very good press, though, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, Kerrang has helped tremendously.
Great, yeah.
Have any of the American magazines that you could name, maybe?
Well, we've had bits and pieces in Circus and Cream. We had a very good review in Billboard. And, I mean, the press over there, as you know, works a little bit differently than it does in Europe. Over there, it's more like you go through the radio and the major labels, and then you come into the magazines. As you know, in Europe, it's more the other way around. You go from the magazines into the radio, sort of like that. But we've had great press all over Europe all spring, and I think that since we've been in Europe since January, working and recording and promoting ourselves, that it's really helped us a lot in Europe.
So let's talk about the brand new album called Ride the Lightning. Who was the producer on that?
Well, we had the option to, when we were going to choose a producer in the studio, with the budget that we were on, to go with either producer or a studio, work it out however we wanted to. We wanted to put all our money into getting the best studio possible in Europe at the time that we thought that we could get. Listening to various products by different people, we ended up in the Sweet Silence studio, which, as you know, Rainbow have done a lot of work, and it's a very, very good studio. Our tactic was at the time to put every bit of budget into the studio side of it, and then the man there at Sweet Silence who has done work on the Rainbow albums, we would then co-produce the album ourselves with Flemming Rasmussen, who's done some of the Rainbow stuff, and we're really happy with the way it came out. It worked out really, really well under the circumstances. Of course, it would have been really nice to bring in a big-name producer, but under the circumstances we were at the time where we had to make a decision, we thought it would be better to go with the best studio possible and then co-produce it ourselves instead of going with sort of a medium studio and a medium-name producer.
Yeah, that sounds sensible, yeah.
And we think that has really worked out as good as it could.
Because there was at one stage you were going to be signed up by Bronze, weren't you? I know Jerry Brom showed tremendous interest.
Yes.
That's fallen through, we know that, of course.
Yes.
What went wrong?
What went wrong? Well, not really anything went wrong. They offered us, I mean, this is very basic. They offered us a record deal, and after going through the record deal and meeting the people at Bronze and sort of getting an insight to what they were doing, we simply said no, thank you. I mean, that's of course just the bits and the biggest pieces of it.
Yeah.
But that's basically what happened. Then there was a few negotiations back and forth about if we could come to an agreement on a different kind of deal. At the end, both parties just agreed not to pursue anything.
Because Jerry wanted to fetch Eddie Kramer in, didn't he?
Yes, he wanted to have Eddie Kramer in and like remix the album for the States, and I don't think we were too keen. He was also very fancy on remixing it for Europe, and we think it's better for Europe the Metallica audience and the way we want to project ourselves in Europe, to have that sort of rougher edge to ourselves, especially in Europe. It might have worked okay for the States, but he was also very keen on doing it for Europe, and sort of at the end we faded away from each other and just in the end said no thank you to the deal that they offered. Although they were very nice to us when we were working with them for that short period of time, and at the moment then we're looking for another major label for the States.
So you're not too disappointed about Bronze?
No, I mean, you have to carry on, you know. It might hurt us, you know, over the next few weeks financially, because there was some very good money involved in that, but we believe that we will be able to come up with a better deal, you know, that will be better for us in the long run soon. And our management in America is right now, you know, going through negotiations with a few interested major labels, and hopefully we'll be able to end up with something that would be better for us in the long run.
Great stuff. So what's your future touring plans then?
Well, right now we're going back, or I'm going back. The other guys are already back there. They're back there sort of on a vacation in San Francisco. We haven't been home there since November, because before we came to Europe we did 6 weeks in the States, and just go back home and relax for about 3 or 4 weeks, get our minds sorted out again, and then we're going back into Europe. We'll be back about the 3rd week of August to start a big 35-date headline tour of Europe, where we'll be playing pretty much every corner of Europe that our booking agency is booking up for us right now, and we'll be headlining it, bringing out, you know, our own sound and lights and our own show. And now we've done a few support tours of Europe, and it's about time we come out and give the kids, you know, a full Metallica show.
Great.
And especially since we're also out to promote the 2nd album, which really should take off and do very well in Europe. Especially MFN are really going to push it as much as they can, and they're really behind it. So that's what the touring plans look like in Europe. After that we go straight back and tour the hell out of the States for the rest of the year.
Smashing.
That's it, yeah.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you.
Indeed, of course.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Lars. All
great.
right.
It was great talking
Take
to you,
care.
Chris. Bye-bye.
Sign of some kind of immaturity, you know, so.
Insincerity.
Well, the point is, Jerry,
Distributes your records in Electra.
Electra.
Electra Records.
And the Warner
Brothers.
Warner Brothers,
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I know some of the mud being thrown up on stage and missiles, but it didn't worry you too much, did it? I hope, anyway.
After a while, we got used to it, and actually kind of pretty different, you know. It was a big deal, you know. It's just
About, you know, wear your crash helmet and, you know.
and
Anyway, the sound was good too. Very good sound. Sounded good up front. Yeah, I was felt a bit sorry for the boys from Rat because the sound possibly wasn't too good for them. Shame. So do you use your own person on the mixing?
yeah, biggest mix.
Yeah, he's done American tour and Europe.
You recorded another album? We're about 6 months after we do a few gigs lined up.
Just we go home, rehearse for a week or two. Then there's a day on the Green Festival in St. with Rat. Days after that, we're flying over to start recording around probably just before Christmas.
Who's producing it?
Engineer.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Record sales good on Ride the Lightning?
Yeah.
Are they?
500,000.
That is amazing. You two got the good work?